Welcome to my channel, Veteran's Legacy. The screen fades in from black, dust swirling across an empty runway as the sun drops low behind a row of steel-gray hangars. The camera draws closer, the sound of boots crunching gravel growing louder. A quiet man walks alone beneath the giant American flag fluttering high above Naval Air Station Fallon. His name, at least the one everyone knows, is Mason Hale. He never talks much, never brags, never even raises his voice. He just shows up early, leaves late, and packs parachutes for the most elite warriors in the world. The SEALs, the men who live in silence and fight in shadows. And every operator who jumps into darkness trusts only one pair of hands to fold their lifeline, Mason's. But none of them know who he really is. Most days, the younger SEALs joke around him, trying to crack that calm shell of his. "Come on, old-timer," they say, laughing. "You ever jump out of one of these yourself?" Mason just smiles politely and keeps working, his fingers folding and threading the silk canopy with perfect symmetry. He has the kind of quiet that makes people uneasy, not softness but depth. There's only one thing about him that's strange. A tattoo, inked high on the side of his neck, barely visible when his shirt collar shifts. Nobody's ever gotten more than a glimpse. Just a symbol, sharp, geometric, and old. The kind of thing men whisper about. But everything changes the day the base commander sees it. It begins like every other morning. Mason is alone in Hangar 4, the parachute table stretching wide like an altar. He moves with a careful rhythm, tightening risers and checking stitching by touch alone. A soft beam of sunlight cuts through the dust, turning the white canopy into a ghostly wave. He does not hear the commander enter. "Mr. Hale," a strong voice says behind him. Mason turns slowly. Commander Riker is known for being hard as steel and twice as cold. The kind of man who doesn't waste time. "I wanted to personally thank you for yesterday's rush order," the commander says. "That jump saved lives." Mason nods lightly. "Just doing my job, sir." Riker steps closer, stopping beside the table. "So modest. My men say you're the best parachute rigger they've ever had." "That's kind of them. And yet," Riker adds, "I can't find your personnel record anywhere." Mason's hands pause for half a second, just long enough for a trained eye to notice. "My paperwork might just be old," Mason replies. "Might be." Riker's gaze drops to Mason's collar as a soft breeze from the open hangar door lifts it. The tattoo flashes, just for a heartbeat. A black trident formed by 3 broken lines. A sigil whispered about in training. A mark reserved for one type of man. The commander's expression sharpens. "That symbol," Riker says quietly. "That can't be what I think it is." Mason doesn't answer. Riker's voice lowers to a tone reserved for battlefield secrets. "You were a ghost diver, weren't you?" Mason clenches his jaw. Because the ghost divers were a rumor. SEALs so deep in covert operations that even other SEAL teams didn't know their missions. Men who disappeared on purpose. Men who died on paper. Men like Mason Hale. The commander steps back, realization settling in his chest like a stone. "My God, they said there were only 12 of you." "There were," Mason murmurs. Riker studies him. "What happened to your team?" Mason's eyes turn distant, old shadows passing through them. "War happened, sir." The commander doesn't push further, not yet. He just nods. "You need to come with me." Mason follows him out of the hangar and into the blinding Nevada sunlight. The runway bakes beneath their boots, heat rising like a memory of far worse deserts. They walk toward operations, where a convoy of Humvees sits idling. "When your men jump tonight," Riker says, "they'll be dropping into a region we have history with. Intelligence says a ghost diver might still be alive down there." Mason stops walking. "There are no ghost divers left," he says firmly. "Maybe not," Riker answers. "But one of the hostages described the man leading the enemy's movements. Described his tattoo." Mason's blood runs cold. "A broken trident?" he asks. Riker nods. "Exactly." Mason's voice tightens. "That tattoo belongs only to us. Nobody else knows its shape. Nobody else can draw it. Nobody else can earn it. That's why," the commander says carefully, "I need you to identify him." The world seems to tilt beneath Mason's feet. A wave of memories, saltwater, gunfire, screams swallowed by dark tide, crashes behind his ribs. "Sir," He whispers, if a ghost diver survived, then it's someone I buried in my mind a long time ago. Riker places a hand on his shoulder, heavy with the weight of command. I wouldn't ask, he says, if lives weren't at stake. Mason closes his eyes, then nods. That night, the camera follows the roar of engines as the C-130 rises into darkness. Inside, the SEAL team preps their gear. Every parachute on their backs has been packed by Mason, silk folded with the kind of precision only a man who has lost too many brothers can master. But tonight, for the first time in years, Mason is not on the ground. He sits beside Commander Riker, strapped in, silent. He never intended to jump again, not after what happened to his team. But when the commander ordered backup personnel for identification, Mason volunteered before he could reconsider. One SEAL, Petty Officer Drake, leans across the plane. Didn't know you still had it in you, old-timer. Mason smirks faintly. Didn't know I'd have to save you kids again. The men laugh, but something in Mason's eyes stops it from becoming mockery. Drake studies him quietly, sensing the shift. The red jump light clicks on. Wind screams as the side hatch opens, the desert night yawning black below them. Riker locks eyes with Mason. Ready. Mason takes a long breath. Yeah, been ready for a long time. The light goes green. They jump. Weightlessness. Cold air slashing across his face. The world spinning into a blur of stars. For the first time in years, Mason feels alive again. Not as a rigger, not as a ghost, but as a warrior reclaiming a name he buried. The parachutes bloom above them like silent explosions of white. They land in the valley silently, boots sinking into dust. The moon hangs low, revealing the battered compound ahead, fences, broken vehicles, and the faint glow of campfires. Commander Riker crouches beside Mason. Our intel says the leader is inside the main structure. You think you'll recognize him? Mason nods once. They split into teams, gliding through darkness like shadows trained by the ocean itself. Mason moves smoother than he expected, muscle memory guiding him. When they breach the compound, chaos erupts. Gunfire cracks, shouts echo. SEALs sweep rooms with surgical force. Mason stays with Riker, slipping deeper inside until they reach a reinforced steel door. This is it, Riker says. But before they can blow it, the door opens. A tall figure steps out. Broad shoulders, cold eyes, and the same tattoo, broken trident, burned into the side of his neck. Mason freezes. Jacob, he whispers. The world falls silent, because Jacob Kane wasn't just a teammate. He was Mason's closest friend. They survived impossible dives together, missions that erased entire syndicates, operations that never made it to a single report. Jacob was the best man Mason had ever known. And seeing him standing alive, leading an armed faction, crushes his chest. Like a fist, Jacob smirks. Didn't think you'd crawl out of hiding, Hale. Commander Riker raises his weapon. Hands up. Jacob laughs. You brought the new kids to clean up your old mess. Mason steps forward slowly, lowering Riker's barrel. Jacob, he says softly, voice trembling, we watched you die. We burned your gear. We sent your flag home. You buried a body, Jacob snaps, but it wasn't me. Mason's throat tightens. Why? Why this? Jacob's eyes flash with fury. Because they left us, Mason. They left our whole team to die. And you disappeared and never looked back. That's not true, Mason whispers. I looked back every day. Jacob's hand twitches toward his rifle. Riker steadies his aim. Don't do it. For a second, the world hangs by a thread. Jacob's face cracks. Not with anger, but grief. We were supposed to be brothers. We still are, Mason says, voice breaking. But you have to let this go. Jacob lifts his rifle, but not toward Mason, toward Riker. Mason moves first. A single shot echoes through the night. Jacob collapses, staring up at the stars he once dove beneath. Mason falls to his knees, cradling his friend as the SEALs secure the compound around them. Jacob's breath is shallow, fading. I wanted you to find me, Jacob whispers. Wanted closure. Mason's voice cracks. I'm here. I never left. Jacob smiles weakly. Still packing perfect shoots. Every one. Jacob's eyes drift closed. Good. At least the kids are safe. His hand slips from Mason's grasp. The desert goes still. Commander Riker kneels beside Mason. I'm sorry. Mason wipes his eyes with shaking fingers. He wasn't the enemy, sir. Just someone who didn't get rescued in time. Riker nods. And you gave him peace. Mason stays there a long moment, the weight of years lifting as tears finally fall, not for failure, but for the man he lost twice. The video returns to the hangar at sunrise. Mason stands at his table, folding a new parachute. His movements are slower now, heavier, as if every crease holds a memory. But there is something new in his eyes, a quiet acceptance. A young SEAL approaches. Mr. Hale, he asks softly. Commander Riker told us what happened. We're honored to have you here. Mason doesn't answer with words. He just hands the young man a perfectly packed chute. For your next jump, he says gently. And for the ones you'll make long after I'm gone. The camera pulls back as Mason returns to his work, the early morning light falling on the tattoo on his neck. Once a symbol of pain, now a symbol of endurance. The narrator's voice softens. Some heroes never tell their stories. Some warriors carry battles no one sees. And some veterans keep packing parachutes, quietly, faithfully, so that others may live to find the peace they lost. Because legacy isn't loud. Legacy is the silence that saves a life. If you enjoyed this emotional story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Veterans Legacy for more cinematic storytelling that honors the heroes we never hear about.